Okay, so right behind me here we have the walls, and we call it the Memorial Wall of Return. As you can see, there are several things written on this wall. In Africa, we classified our names as the sole carrier. That is, before the arrival of the Europeans onto the continent, we had names like Kojo in Ghana, Kojo, Abena, Ya, Efia, Ama, Akosia, Kwesi, and the others. And this was the name among our ancestors back in the olden days, or before the arrival of the Europeans. But when the Europeans got here, they were captured, and their names were changed from Kojo to either Campbell or Matheson or whatever they gave them. We classify those names as their slave names. Just like those names, these walls were part of a project called the Joseph Project. In the Bible, Joseph was cited to have been sold by his own brothers into slavery. He went to Egypt and became a prominent person. After that, he was requested to come back home. And then he did go back home to his parents. This is a story of us as Africans. Just like 2 years ago, we were celebrating the year of return. So many people kept asking, what are we going back to? Or what are we coming back to? This is Africa, the land where most of our ancestors were captured and sent out of. And we believe that since they were given the names or the slave names, their souls are now in those names. And now that the hope of our ancestors are being realized by their newer generations, when they come back home and then put their names on this wall, it signified the coming back of the souls of all those who have used their names. So we have last names on this wall and several other things. Others chose to write an appreciation word instead of writing their last names because they classified those names as the names given to them by their slave masters, and they wouldn't want to do anything with it again. Most of them came back to Ghana and then changed their names into the local names. They go through the naming ceremony and then they change their names. So all the names you've seen on this wall, or you can see, are names written by brothers and sisters who have returned from the diaspora. And that's the purpose of the wall. The number of the wall, or the 7 walls, according to oral history, or according to the people who built the wall, they chose the number 7 because of its significance. That is, it signifies perfection or completion. Meaning, there will be no way Africans will be placed in slaves or enslaved again. So never again we will allow ourselves to be enslaved. For now, we'll be heading to the river. So we walk towards the river, but before we go, I will show you a particular plant down here before we move on. It was a plant that most of us don't know about, but the few that knew about it call it the Mimosa plant, or the original name is the Mimosa plant, but its significance or the role it played during the slave trade era is not known to many. But I would like to show and then share that particular insight with you. So if you don't mind, let's walk towards the other side. All right, so we have here the Mimosa plant down here. It's a plant that is very sensitive. Once you touch it, it closes. Back in the days, or even now, we were made to believe that most of our ancestors sold off their own brothers. But what is not known to us, or is not being told, is that most of them had to fight against the trade. So those who were fighting and rebelling against the trade were implementing measures to safeguard their territories. Just like we have the alarm systems nowadays in our homes to detect the movement or the forced entrance of so many people, this plant was used back then as their security check. So whenever our ancestors comes out from their hiding places to see these plants close. It tells them that the raiders have been around their territory and they will advise themselves accordingly. There was once a king called King Bedu Bonsu II. He was one of those who were rebelling against the act, and he used this means to safeguard his territory until the latter part of the 1839 when he was captured. King Bedu Bonsu did not allow most of the Europeans, especially the Dutch and the Danes, to come into his territory. Whenever they try, he made notes to his warriors that anytime you see these people getting closer to us, make sure you bring me back their heads. And the warriors also kept that particular command and were killing most of them until King Bedu Bonsu, together with some of his men, were captured, and then he was beheaded. They took his head all the way to the Netherlands. It took Ghana over 3 centuries to even realize where the head was. The head was brought back home in 2009 to be buried, so that the soul of this renowned king can finally find peace. When we head to the eastern region of Ghana, Akwemufie, there was once a prince called Prince Asomeni. When they talk about disguise in Africa or in Ghana, he was one of the pioneers. This gentleman disguised himself as a cook, went into the Christiansborg Castle, served there for several years. Later, he invited his warriors to come trade in guns and gunpowder. When they got there, and then he was given a pinch of the gunpowder to test the gun, instead of them shooting the guns in the air, they rather pointed it at the governor and then his people. They drove them out of the castle, took the castle for themselves. But later, after they drove these people out of the castle, they faced their own people. So Prince Asomeni, believing that whenever the castle is with them, they are in danger, he has to let go of the castle. He handed over the castle, locked. He locked everything, all the doors in the castle, took the key away, but handed over the castle to the British. We go to Kwewu. When you get to Kwewu, you will see several other caves in Kwewu. On top of the mountain, our ancestors went into hiding. Those who were rebelling against the act went into hiding there. They could see on top of the mountain, they could see the valley, so that anytime the raiders are getting closer to them, they roll rocks on them and then kill them. Some of them in the caves. In the northern part of Ghana, we have 2 different places, Golu and Nalerugu. These 2 places all have a defense wall built from the mud, the earth. It is believed that the gun bullet cannot penetrate through the mud wall. So these people build the wall as thick as possible to safeguard themselves and then to protect themselves in order to be able to fight their raiders. So this particular plant here was helping our ancestors to detect the movement of their raiders. But some few years later, these raiders also got to learn about this plant and they were using it against our people. How they used it was that anytime they capture the slaves or they are moving our people, my ancestors, your ancestors as well, anytime they are moving them and they felt like they themselves, the raiders, are tired and their horses are tired, they will keep the captives at a place surrounded by this particular plant, with the sense that once you escape from the chains, you will be stepping on this plant and then be moving out. And that you will leave a trace of where you are going. These people came with dogs, so all they have to do is to unleash the dogs, set the dogs free, and then they will follow with their horses and then come back to capture you. Once you are caught, they will take you through several treatments. They will either stretch your arms open in the sun and then give you multiple whips, or they shoot you in front of the group to put fear in them who are also planning to escape. For now, we'll be heading to the river where our ancestors took their last path, called the Non-Concio or the Slave River. It's heading this way.